had this epiphany about happiness, which is weird because it's something that I feel totally weird talking about. But in this video, I'm going to share that epiphany, and more specifically, what I now believe is what's required for us to be happy on our own terms, in our own pursuit of happiness. Welcome to Get It Together, and if you're new here, this channel is just me trying to figure out how to get my life together and sharing the tips and lessons I learned along the way. And as you may have gathered from the intro, I feel totally weird talking about happiness. I don't know why. Maybe it's just as a guy that grew up in the 90s. Maybe it was seen as weak, or it's just like, shut up, keep your head down, do your work, get shit done. Or maybe because the concept of happiness itself is pretty abstract if we're unable to define what all the components of it mean to us. But the epiphany I had about happiness and how to get there ultimately came from revisiting a quote that I really love, which I mentioned in a previous video. And that quote is by a chef named Dan Barber who, and I'm paraphrasing here, but said something along the lines of, "Isn't life just a never-ending string of attempts to fill one void after another?" And it made me realize that all of us, no matter how we cut it, and no matter how potentially uncomfortable it is to talk about happiness, we're all ultimately trying to have a happy life. Now, how we define the different components of what a happy life might be will be wildly different for each individual person, but at the end of the day, Chef Dan Barber was right. We're trying to fill voids, and once those voids are filled, those are what give us happiness. I dove a little deeper down into that thought rabbit hole and realized that for myself and basically everyone that I talk to, everyone that I hold near and dear, friends, family, these voids that need to be filled in each person's life ultimately come down to either money-related, health-related, or relationship-related. And when we drill down a little bit more, I realized that those, no matter what those problems might be, fit into two core buckets. Voids that can be solved with money and voids that cannot be solved with money. And in just casually talking with people, random conversations, it's become clear that, at least for me and my circle of friends and family, almost every single void can be solved with money. But what type of voids can't be solved with money? Generally speaking, they will sit in things like in the health category, like if we have a debilitating disease or an illness that doesn't have a cure yet. I mean, if it doesn't have a cure, it doesn't matter how much money we have, we won't be able to fill that void, we won't be able to cure that disease. And the other category that can't really be solved entirely with money are interpersonal relationship type things, right? If we're in a toxic relationship or the place we work, the people suck, it's hard to choose family members, and if we don't get along with family, those are the types of things where money also can't really solve those problems. But when I looped everything back together and kind of like drew it out, it was basically saying that happiness, at the end of the day, if I had to boil it down to one word, is choice. We think about our lives right now, and chances are work occupies a non-insignificant amount of our lives. I mean, I know people that work 9 to 5 and their commute each way is 2 hours. And so that's 12 hours that, because of the concept of needing to earn a money literally to sustain life, 12 hours every single day, they don't have a say in, there's no choice. Of course, there's different tiers of happiness. I mean, they might really love their job, but the fact that they have no choice in the matter, that they have to work, means that those 8, 10, 12 hours are spoken for. There is no choice in the matter. And once there's a removal of choice, then the potential of true, complete happiness is also removed. So what do we have here? Kind of like in diagram form. To me, happiness at its core means choice. Choice in how we spend our time, who we spend that time with, what activities fill that time on our own terms. And to be able to pursue the things that we genuinely want to pursue, we need to have enough money to do so, to be able to say yes or no, I choose to work or not. To have strong interpersonal relationships, because let's face it, as humans, we're social beings. We need to be around people. Some might need more people, some might need more time spent with people, but at the end of the day, nobody can survive truly as a hermit with no interaction. So we need to build a support system and have alignment of thought and interest with the people that we want to spend our time with. And the third component of choice is health. Both mental and physical health. It doesn't matter if we have all the money in the world and we have strong interpersonal relationships with like-minded people. If we want to skydive but our lungs can't handle the altitude, then we don't have that choice of being able to pursue the things that we really want to do. So sort of coming full circle, happiness is choice, and choice is having the health, money, and relationships in order to exercise that choice. So how does this work in terms of my epiphany of happiness and how to pursue happiness? So my epiphany really begins with defining what true happiness is for us. So if I had to define it in one sentence, it would be this. Happiness is having the health, money, relationships, and time freedom to be able to choose how to use all of those things together. Now, that one sentence definition is all fine and dandy, but chances are you're like me and you're nowhere near that point right now. Which leads me to something that was really interesting that I heard from a researcher named Sean Aker. Now, ultimately, what he realized is that we think we need to achieve things in order to be happy, but the fact of the matter is, we actually need to be happy first in order to be able to effectively achieve things. So how do we square all of this together? How do we square that one single sentence definition with having the health, money, relationships, and time freedom to choose how we use all of those things with the concept from Sean Aker of needing to be happy first in order to work towards achieving those things? And for me, this slides into the last section of this video, which is all about purpose. And more specifically, I'm not talking about purpose like save the whales, but when I say purpose, I mean having your own individual goals and knowing that every single day you're doing your part to work towards them. So I use myself as an example. Right now, in order to sustain my current lifestyle, my monthly financial burn rate is about 2,650 Canadian dollars every single month. And so my goal is to create multiple automated and passive income streams to be able to provide me with at least 2,650 Canadian dollars every month without directly trading hour after hour after hour of my time in order to achieve it. One example is right here, what you're watching right now, YouTube videos. The content here is free for you, but for the past month or so, I've been getting about $100 a month from YouTube ads. And of course, that's a far cry from 2,650, but by consistently making YouTube videos and trying to provide as much value to you as possible, the hope and the goal is that my channel will grow and the ad revenue will increase, as well as other monetization opportunities to be able to get to that 2,650 a month. That's what I mean by purpose, to have a clearly defined goal. Purpose, to me, is what drives initial happiness to be able to achieve more and more to gain that final, perfect definition of happiness. Which means that ultimately, for me, I genuinely believe that in order to have daily happiness, we need to have clearly defined goals and know that we are doing things every single day actively to move the needle towards those goals. That to me is what brings graduated happiness and sustained, continued daily happiness. I look at different time periods in my life where there was a lack of productivity, a lack of motivation, and an overt attempt to pursue comfort, with an important distinction between comfort and happiness. And what I mean by this is I didn't have clearly defined goals, and so there would be weeks or months on end where I'd find myself watching Netflix for like 8 hours a day. And although it was comfortable, it was easy, it felt pretty good in the moment, every single day there was this underlying sense of unhappiness because there was no purpose to my life. And so looping it all the way back to that one sentence definition and what I believe is my epiphany on how to actually be consistently happy, it is exactly this. Knowing that we need health, money, relationships, and time freedom to choose how we spend all of those, I start with my initial goal of building to a point where I can have $2,650 every single month passively, and making sure that every single day I do at least one thing to become physically and mentally healthier, one thing to foster, build, and create new valuable relationships, and accomplish at least one thing that will move me closer towards getting that time and money freedom. I call them my big daily 3. So when it comes to health, as you guys know, I was less than a year ago diagnosed as being dangerously pre-diabetic, and I completely reversed all of those signs in my blood testing by combining keto and intermittent fasting. And so for health, I'm ensuring that I'm staying strictly compliant to that way of eating. For building, creating, and fostering great interpersonal relationships, I make sure that every single day I have a meaningful conversation with a friend, family, or I'll go onto sites like meetup.com to look for interest groups that align with my interests. And for building passive income, I make sure that I do something every single day, whether it's creating a YouTube video or thinking of ways to build other side hustles in order to get me to that first financial and time goal of having $2,650 come in month over month, passively and with automation. I welcome you to think about your own goals and realizing that having goals is only the first step, but charting a plan and executing against that plan and making sure that every single day you move the needle towards that goal is the best way to break through that rat race, break through the mundane day-to-day daily grind, and be able to define purpose and work towards purpose consistently, no matter how you define it. How does it work in practice? So reiterating in no uncertain terms, I believe the key to sustained happiness, every single night before I go to bed, I take out my trusty notebook and I write down my 3 big daily things. The 3 things I'm gonna have to accomplish the next day. One thing that has to do with supporting my health, one thing that has to do with building and fostering good interpersonal relationships, and one thing that goes towards supporting financial and time freedom. They don't necessarily have to be huge tasks, but as long as I know that every single day I do one thing to support each of these pillars as they relate to my own individual goals, that to me is the epiphany that frames happiness and how we can pursue happiness. By the way, if you're getting value out of this video, be sure to hit that like button. You can subscribe by clicking right over here. And if you're kind of struggling to figure out exactly what your goals are, I welcome you to check out this video right over here, which walks through an exercise called dreamlining. And in the description of that video, there's also a free 100% no strings attached worksheet to help you create your own dreamline. As usual, if you have any questions or want to debate anything, hit up the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.